Welcome back to News Night with me, Frank Omalape. Canada and Mexico have responded in kind to tariffs imposed on their export into America by President Donald Trump by announcing their own tariffs on American goods. Trump had imposed 25% levies on some of the Canada, China, and Mexico's export to the U.S. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced that his country was slapping a 25% levy on U.S. export, imposing tariffs on U.S. goods worth about 155 billion Canadian dollars, which equals about 106 billion US dollars. The tariffs will take effect on Tuesday, same day the U.S. tariff is expected to become effective. Similarly, Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum said the country had initially sought dialogue rather than confrontation with the U.S., but has now been forced to respond in kind. In a post on X, President Sheinbaum said the country plans to impose a 25% tariff on all U.S. goods entering Mexico. Meanwhile, China, although yet to impose a retaliatory tariff on U.S., has rejected the new policy and indicated that it plans to take countermeasures. The country's Ministry of Commerce said the Asian country is set to file a lawsuit at the World Trade Organization as the imposition of tariffs by the U.S. violate WTO rules. Meanwhile, just a day after imposing tariffs on import from the three countries, Trump has acknowledged that Americans may find themselves paying the cost. In a message on his Truth Social, the American president said, quote, "This will be the golden age of America. Will there be some pain? Yes, maybe." Well, let's get into the conversation now to help us understand the dynamics of the ongoing tariff war. We have joining us in the studio here, international business and project development consultant, Dr. Emeka Okengwu. Welcome to News Night.
Pleasure. Glad to be here.
Well, we're seeing this is more like a trade war, and we're seeing a response from these other three countries, except China. Let me get your thoughts on the conflict and what this means for global trade.
Well, the quick and fast response also clearly states that you don't have that superpower, that big brother with the big boots and the big whip anymore, trying to whip everybody in line. But it'd be nice to bring in the WTO here because it's very critical, considering that they are supposed to be the ones that America should have approached in the first place. And then also considering the fact that America, for the past 75 years or more, have promoted free trade, have brought down governments, have done everything, to stop what they call protectionism. And then this is America now, because this is not a trade war. Let's call it what it is. This is protectionism. Now, but in doing protectionism, there are two things you want to look at here. One, what would be the global impact? From what statistics from the WTO, about 6.4% of the global GDP, translating to $6.7 trillion, will be lost. Now, if we're going to be quoting the DG of the WTO, this would be tantamount to maybe about the whole of the GDP of Japan and Korea put together. Let's not even bring Africa into the mix. So it's just not all about. And another surprising thing would be, why do you want to whip your neighbors? Why do you want to whip your trading partners? Because Mexico and America have traded for a very long time. Canada and America have traded for a very long time. So the question will be, what is behind this thing? And for me, I see an attempt to whip in line. And I can link this to probably building new economic blocks to be able to confront the imminent that is about to happen, and it will definitely happen. And this time I'm talking about the BRICS.
So when you say imminent, you're talking about the BRICS,
yes,
isn't it?
Yes, because there are going to be new economic blocks, definitely. And if you look at the people who are in this economic...
So you're saying that's what exactly Trump is trying to fight before he even starts?
Well, he's not fighting it well, in my own opinion, because there are three things you're doing. No matter what it is you want to do, first and foremost, you need to come to the consciousness that you no longer own the world. You're no longer the policeman of the world. That's not on anymore. And dollar is no longer that almighty currency, especially with the ruble and BRICS coming into the play. And look at the members of BRICS, for crying out loud. Okay, you have India, you have Brazil, you have Russia, you have Saudi Arabia, fortunately South Africa, and then fortunately I think Nigeria has been admitted. And if they have both the population and the skills and the manpower and the technology. So when you want to do things like this, and look at what's happening in America now, off the cuff, people are no longer going to work. So, and this is harvest period in some parts of America. So that cost is just not going to be driven by this, tariff war. You're also going to be having your domestic pushbacks. It's not going to be good for him at all. So it's not some pain. It's going to be a lot of pain.
You just talked about Nigeria being admitted into BRICS.
Yes.
What sort of consequences, does that portend for the country, given the fact that Nigeria is yet to be weaned off, from the West, because we still look up to the West for, aid and some other things. So, what consequences?
I cringe.
Because Donald Trump want to do everything to stop, the operation of the BRICS.
I cringe each time I hear the word aid. And one of the things that I popped, some wine for was when Trump announced that he wasn't going to be giving aid to anybody. It's a little bit demeaning. It's a little bit, elementary that you look at a sovereign country that has their array of solid minerals and resources, human capital. And I can tell you this, we actually have more, skilled workforce, maybe college graduates, than you have in most states of America put together. And if you go there, even the ones that have there, most of them are either blacks or Nigerians. So when you talk about aid and we're depending on aid for what? Let me tell you this, my brother. You see the Ministry of Steel, if we're able to focus, support that ministry, all right, we can become a very major. And every other country that has become major, look at the Arab world. How many people are complaining about what's happening? The trade war. Are they talking about it? Because they've been able to value chain their steel to the point that they are now global players. So I don't think anybody in Nigeria should be, feeling bad that we're no longer getting aid. What we should be thinking about, how are we going to be ramping up, our capacity and ability to get a bigger percentage of the market share, and it's possible.
So before I let you go, two things you need to talk about. We're talking about AIDS. Do you think African countries, including Nigeria, can stand on their feet without looking up to West for it? That's one. And secondly, speak on the issue of how Nigeria can also take advantage of this tariff war that is ongoing between these countries. Okay. What do we stand to gain? How do we position our country to gain from this war?
Do you want to Google the position of Niger Republic now in global ranking? You want to Google it? Please do.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
They have become one of the fastest growing economies that are listed now by just one mineral that they took back from the people who held them. I mean, it's like somebody who you're giving a bag of rice and then he's giving you a loaf of bread. And then you're worried that he's going to stop giving you the loaf of bread and you're scared to take your bag of rice. That's what it is like. The day African countries stand up, look at Rwanda, for crying out loud. You know what has happened? Rwanda has lined up Americans and are shipping them out. They haven't sent warplanes to Rwanda. Now, you come to Nigeria, what can we be? I just told you that if we had just this Ministry of Steel partnering with our Ministry of Agriculture and building a synergy with our Ministry of Blue Economy, I tell you what can happen. Nigeria has a dry dock. We can build ships here. With steel, we have over 3 billion metric tons of iron ore and allied steel products in our grounds that we haven't scratched. Do you understand what I'm saying? So anytime people tell you, oh, we're depending on America for aid for what? Aid to do what? We have 82 million, hectares of arable land that can grow everything. We don't have any natural disaster. None. So that means we can be able to grow food and then even supply to America. And which is why, in that understanding and realization, America will never support any food program in any African country. And then we now need to look up to them to give us the ones that they produce using their GMOs. I don't want to sound a little bit too patronizing, but the truth of the matter is that this is a wake-up call. It's time that we begin to become a country. And if we're an independent country, for crying out aloud, please exclude the word aid. You can talk about partnerships. You can talk about people building, business, relationships. So the moment you make it aid, you know what it means? We can produce vaccines. We had one of the best vaccines lab established in this country over 20 years ago. Why couldn't we start producing vaccines? We have one of the best or the best virologists in this country or the world has ever produced, gone to the best schools. We probably have more Cambridge, Harvard graduates than most countries in the world. So the major problem is our fixated in this way. We are underdeveloped or developing or least developing. Why would anybody call us that? The moment to solve our energy needs, which is very easy and straightforward, it's the greatest least things that we should be looking at now. And then focus on building our capacity for steel and allied products. And then we're good.
You've put some key, critical, important issues on table tonight, and I hope that perhaps the policymakers will start doing something about it. But unfortunately, we don't have much time to go further in this conversation. Thank you so much, Development Consultant Dr. Okengwu. Thank you for coming.
So that's a pleasure. Thank you.